our new pan. This is my new cleaning method. I'm trying to, so all these cast iron pans, this is a decent one, but it's still got all this little kind of grit on it, right? And that ends up kind of making food stick to it, making it hard to clean out when you're just trying to wipe a cast iron with a rag or whatever to clean it up. So the smoother I can make it, the easier that cleanup's going to be, which is going to save us water and everything in the long run too. So before I season this up, I figured let's sand it down and make it as smooth as possible. I read online that this was a good idea. Some people like it, so give it a whirl.
I'm fully embracing my bride era, getting ready for my bachelorette, while my darling future husband is prepping for projects.
Embracing my carpenter era.
Embracing his carpenter era. I love it. Also, one last thing. I am super behind on editing. I am trying to get these videos out. I'm just telling Connor. I haven't been filming him that much recently because I can't keep up with the editing, but it's okay. We're going to film him right now, and we're going to show off the amazing work he does around here.
She gave me a break for the past week, so we should be able to catch up a tiny bit. What I'm doing now is we have all this open space in the chain locker here.
Like, we can fit surfboards in there. It's really big, but obviously you don't want surfboards in there to block the chain from coming.
This is a 4-foot stick right now, and there's plenty to go still. So yeah, we don't want anything delicate in there, but we have a bunch of spare lines and whatnot that kind of, you know, aren't super heavy, not really going to get in the way or tangle with the chain. And as long as we kind of zip tie them up nice and just keep them as tight as possible, I figure we can keep any spares that we don't use on the day-to-day basis, but it's good to have on the boat. We can keep in here, just kind of hanging from here. And that is all fiberglass. That's the side of the hull, right? So to allow me to screw in some hooks, what I'm going to do is glue on some of the redwood 2x6 that I got. I'm gonna get them all prepped today, and then we'll do the little thickened epoxy glue on there tomorrow. But right now it's not a perfectly straight hole, so I just had to kind of plane this out, and it's kind of ugly, but it allowed the majority of the board to sit much flatter on the side of the hole there. This one's all pretty much done. Scuffed it up with 60 grit flap disc also to get that epoxy to stick a little bit. Tomorrow, when Malvina is gone, I will make a mess of the place and scuff the whole side up with 60 grit flap disc also. So if we're not trying to stick to the bilge paint there. And then this one I just started. I have to go around our hole number in there. So I cut this little bit out, trying to even this out a little bit, but I'm going to have to plane some of this off too. The planer does an awesome job at this. It just takes off a good chunk of material without taking very long, and does it in a, you know, fairly smooth manner. Not as good as a sander, I guess, but you can always sand it after and smooth it all out. Took off that little chunk right there in a minute or less, so you get to kind of shape it into what you want. So I'm gonna have to plane some of this off and kind of get that to curve with the hole, and then we'll be all ready to go for tomorrow.
Bada bing boom bum.
Bing bang boom.
Boom boom
I
boom.
just thought I'd show you how I'm making this tool to keep the tension on the pieces of wood in there that I'm going to be gluing up. And so I'm basically taking these little slidey clamps and pushing them the other way, so now it pushes out instead. So to do that, you just have to grind off this little piece right here. I'm just using my little Dremel tool and grinding off that little bit so that this will slide off all the way off the back, because that's a little stopper for it. So once you grind that little bit off there, then this will just slide all the way off. And be careful, because this is going to want to fall out right here, but if you keep your tension on that, then it should stay good. If not, you just have to replace the little spring. The other little spring in here tends to get caught. So you can just kind of poke that down, make room for the rod again. And then we'll just slide that in there nice and easy. And not so easy. Come on. Alright, see that spring? That will fall out, so be careful. Don't do it over the water. And then that does slide in, but now I'm going to have to put that spring and that lever back in. Just go kind of finagle it in there. And now instead of a clamp, we have an extender. So when you pull this trigger, it goes out. So now I can put something in the middle. This isn't going to be quite wide enough, but I'm probably going to put like maybe some PVC around either end of these, or maybe just one end, and then I can tension up the wood against the side of the hole there, and should glue a lot better that way. So cool little trick. Well, I didn't quite think about how the angle was going to affect that little tensioner device that I made. So we are going to just kind of set it up there, I think, with some 2x3s that I cut to length there, just propped up off the chain, and just to keep the weight off and hold them up there. They're staying pretty steady anyway, so that glue should dry around them. They shouldn't need too much tension. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Alright, time for more grinding, I guess. Yep, got everything all set up, and we're just got them marked where the board's gonna go. Grind that up, rough it up a little bit so I can glue to it. Oh, it's hard to do it justice, but holy moly, that was dusty in there. Just did a very quick grind, but you can see everything is all filthy. I'm covered in it. Yep, powdered my nose again. This little COVID mask didn't work very well. Wonder what it did for COVID. This kind of work is not as much fun. You can see how wet my gloves are. My hands are literally dripping sweat. But it has finally gotten hot out here. And this is kind of the finished product. I think I'm just going to have to let it wait and dry from there. Turned out okay. I'm not super happy with like how much glue squeezed out. But as long as it made like a good few points of contact, then I think we should be sturdy enough. You know, consider it a nail basically, right? If it makes a good bond, it should be up there. So we'll see how it turns out, but that's the finished product. Alright, so I gotta grind this down a little bit more. Can't remember if I filmed any of this yet, but basically this is our waste cap for getting pumped out. It's just a little bit kind of beveled up where we need to put it with fiberglass from the boat. It's right along our track for the cars. Basically, I just need to grind that away. I don't have a bench grinder on the boat. I was tempted to bring one. Since I don't have a bench grinder, I have this little belt sander. And now I made it a bench belt sander. Right there, look at that. Doesn't move at all. Alright, time to drill the hole now. Got them all marked out. There they are. I'm gonna end up doing a unibit first just to pilot it and get that hole precise, and then I'm gonna drill it out with a 3/8 hole. I know that's big. I'm just using number 10 3/4 Phillips screw to actually set this in, but I'm gonna fill it with thickened epoxy first because we do have wood in this deck right here, and it's only about 1/2 inch deep or less, so I don't want any water to get into there. So we'll see how this all goes. If I do the thickened epoxy, I can make it pretty much completely waterproof. Got them all drilled out. This one caught a little bit. I didn't get the unibit kind of far enough, and that fiberglass does crack pretty easy, which is the reason for me doing this anyways, because if you drill this screw in to the fiberglass, then it'll just crack that whole section potentially, and you know, make you vulnerable to water intrusion there. This, I just wanted to point out that this is a small screw. and it is like throwing a hot dog down a hallway right here. But when I fill that with thickened epoxy, it'll fill that all up super strong, and it'll make sure that I never hit even a wall of raw wood, which water could seep down past the screw into. So that's the theory, at least. We'll see how it goes. Alright, one of our subscribers gave us the idea to do this. Basically, I just mixed up the thickened epoxy, put it in a bag, cut a hole in the corner of the bag, and we'll squeeze it in. And hopefully it works out well. Might have mixed this a little bit thick. It's kind of setting off already. We'll see. Oh, that's nice. A little icing. Appreciate the idea. I forget who it was, but yeah, that works great. Saves me one of those syringes. They weren't as cheap as a little plastic bag. Essentially does the same thing. So I'm just trying to squeeze it all in there. Make sure we don't have any air bubbles. Probably could have taped around this little area so I didn't have to wipe so much of it off. Got a little bit of a bubble out of that one. Glad I went back for the second round. For this, I am using the 406 colloidal silica. Not sure if that's the best one to be using, but seems good. And it's clear, so make a little bit of a mess. It's not too big of a deal. Alright, we'll let that dry up overnight and come back and drill that out and screw it up tomorrow. Alright, so today I'm going sailing with my parents, and I just remembered, I mean I knew, but the engine was overheating last time, or at least said it was. We did notice that it was kind of gulping a little bit slow. There was still water coming out the back, but I'm gonna replace the gasket on this sea strainer because, as you can see, the seacock is open. So this is well above the water line. Well, not well. The water line's about right here. So it has to pull a vacuum basically to get the water into the motor, and without a proper seal there, then it can't pull a good vacuum. So I think replacing the gasket might help get us a little bit better raw water flow through there. So that's what I'm gonna do. I have this little rubber gasket material, and I'm just gonna trace out the old one and cut a new one, slap it on there. And then they also had these little plastic washers on there. I'm going to replace that with kind of a good rubber sealing washer, and hopefully that'll get us our good water flow. And I'm also suspecting that I did change this temp sender right here just a month ago or so. I got it at O'Reilly's because West Marine didn't have it, and I did not get the temperature range from them, so it might just be the range is wrong for our instrument up there. So hopefully I'll switch that out today too, and hopefully we can get all these water overheating issues solved. And I was also using this little infrared thermometer to check the temp last time also. It appears to be reading right. I reset the emissivity and all that too. And I was getting 170 degrees when it was saying that our gauge was reading 240 degrees. So I'm pretty sure it's just an issue with the gauge, but can't help to get a little more water flow in there and reseal that gasket and be a little extra safe. So all good. The old gasket here is a little bit crusty, and it's got this little crack in there too, so I don't know, maybe that was it. We'll see how the water flows today. Well, I forgot to film the end of that result for the engine temp there, but it holds at its last temp, so that was after motoring all the way in. Well, just through the harbor mouth. It sat at about 180, so perfect. What I did was I ended up replacing the sending unit. I topped off the coolant level a little bit, and I replaced that gasket with a little rubber washer up top too. So I didn't notice too much extra water coming out the tailpipe or anything, so I don't think the there was a suction problem. I think it was most likely just the sending unit right here. You know, maybe a little bit of coolant, but I kind of messed up the scientific experiment, scientific process there with too many variables, but ended up all working, so I'm happy with that. Don't need to know exactly the cause. Alright, so I tested out the little 2x6s up here earlier, and I was pulling on them with all my weight just by hand, you know. They're up there freaking sturdy, not even a budge, so just decided to go ahead and paint them. I was thinking about kind of, you know, spreading some more epoxy in there to fill those little gaps, but that's more just aesthetic, and this is just a chain locker, so not too worried about that. I decided to go ahead and just paint it so I can start hanging those hooks and get some lines in here and clear out some space in our aft locker there. I think hopefully, cross our fingers, it all works out well and we don't end up tangling chain when we need that anchor. I think we should be fine as long as we secure them up there nice. So, looking good.